Welcome to the How of Business with your host, Henry Lopez, the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your small business. And now, here is your host.
This is Henry Lopez. Welcome to this episode of the How of Business. My guest today is Susan Gonzales. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Susan is an expert in artificial intelligence, and as small business owners, we're all aware of it, but we have to adopt it. We have to learn. We have to be curious, as Susan says, and we have to learn how we can adapt and work with and leverage AI. Because if we're not, our competition is. And so it's essential that we at least try to stay ahead. Or I equate it to, those super bullet trains in Japan that are moving at 200 plus miles an hour, and I'm hanging on to the outside of it, barely keeping up. That's kind of the way I feel about it. So I get it. It's overwhelming, but we can't use that as a reason to just stay on the sidelines. You can find all of the How a Business resources, including the show notes page for this episode, and to learn more about my one-on-one and group coaching programs at thehowabusiness.com. I also invite you to please consider supporting the show on Patreon, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you might be listening so you don't miss any episodes. Let me tell you briefly a little bit more about Susan. Susan Gonzales is the founder and CEO of AI&U. She launched AI&U, which is a nonprofit to educate ordinary people and business owners like myself about artificial intelligence and prepare them for the opportunities and challenges of AI. Previously, Susan was a policy executive with Facebook and other tech and telecom companies. She's published various pieces and content on this topic. And so once again, Susan Gonzales, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. And so the question I'd like to start with is, what led you to this focus and concentration on artificial intelligence?
Mm-hmm. Well, I first learned about AI when I was at Facebook, and this was about 11 years ago. And this new technology was allowing the blind community to access the Facebook platform.
Interesting.
And we were having some challenges with that. It's a new technology. Even at the time, it was really new. And I was on the policy team, as you mentioned, and I was working with the engineers on this issue and the policymakers in Washington, D.C. And I found myself saying to the engineers, "Oh, so what you mean is..." And so I trained my brain to translate engineer speak in Silicon Valley to a language that ordinary people like us can understand. And so in 2019, I decided to leave the company and launch into artificial intelligence. And at the time, nobody was talking about it. I mean, my family their response was, "What? AI what? What is that you're doing?" And they were saying that for about 3 years until ChatGPT was launched.
Yeah.
And then everything changed because it created a mainstream conversation about AI. A lot of people think that AI was born when ChatGPT was launched, but nothing could be further than the truth. I mean, we have been interacting with AI for a long time.
But it was the killer app, right? As we used to say, it's the app that really brought it to mass awareness, right?
Right. It did. AI more broadly, and how that tool as well as others. So that we can talk a bit about generative AI for small businesses, particularly. So just to take a step back, I launched aiandyou.org as a free resource for people to essentially be comfortable with the idea of AI. Because where we are as a country and actually globally is the awareness is so low, and research showed in the White House report that we created that the general awareness, and this was just last year, was about 30%. And that's
Really?
probably high, especially for communities of color and women. Women are already tracking behind in men in adopting AI. So that's not a good sign either.
Why is that? What is your observation as to why this happens?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of reading about it, and essentially, women in general are skeptical about the privacy of the technology. They're skeptical about just technology in general. So women, we typically trail. We're not an early adopter, and so the numbers don't favor an environment right now where people are comfortable with the topic. They understand it, and then let alone small business owners. And that's an entirely different population and conversation.
Right. And of course we have fortunately such increasing number of women as business owners,
Mhm.
but it also I might gotta expect correlates back to the smaller number of women in technology, right? And so it kind of feeds off of that, which it shouldn't, but it does, right?
I don't know. I don't know though. Well, with AI, yes, in the sense that some of your listeners may have heard about AI bias
Yes.
or,
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. I wasn't referring to
right?
that, Susan. I was referring more to that. There always seems to have been, having been in technology, my background is as a computer programmer, this the part of the gender role that says women aren't good at IT and men are,
Mm,
it's kind of an
hmm.
IT male role, and I think that still gets perpetuated to some extent.
Uh-huh.
Is that fair? And so, or is it more what you're alluding to, which is women are more sensitive to the social or the privacy components of what AI may or may not do?
Well, I think it begins with back in the day, right? When
Yes.
when
Yes.
new technology, to your
Yeah.
point, was really available to white men. They're the
Yeah. Yeah.
first people,
Yeah.
they're the ones that wrote the code, they're the ones that created these things. And most of the things we ordinary people never even saw. Even though
Right.
we had computers now, we have laptops now, then smartphones came out. But the difference is that AI is not something that's coming. It's not Star Wars. Eventually it will be, but for now it's not. AI is here. And so for anyone who owns a device, a phone, a smartphone, a laptop, an iPad, a computer of any type, guess what? You're interacting with AI. And so someone asked me recently, I was speaking, and they said, "Oh, well, Susan, what time did I start interacting with AI today?" And I asked, "Well, what time did you pick up your device? Did you click anything? Did you use your face to open your phone?" That's facial recognition. So we all of us have actually been feeding AI, which is why it's advanced so quickly. So if we must remember that AI needs data to
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah.
We are the data. We are clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. And in many respects, it makes our lives easier, right? I mean, well, Netflix recommends a movie because it's predicted
Right.
that I like comedies because I keep clicking on comedies. So it's been around a long time, and I think people just need to understand that. To your point, it's not the time to keep your heads in the sand
Yeah.
at all.
And it's interesting for me because I have, and partly as my role as trying to share information as a podcaster, I have decided to take the approach of embracing it, only looking at the positives of it. I spend very little time
Mm,
thinking about the potential negative consequences. Not that I deny that they're there, I just don't focus there.
hmm.
So because of that, I lose sight of the fact. And my question to you is, to the point of the low adoption, that surprises me, but it triggers that as I speak to other people, like if I speak to our pickleball friends, every single time that topic happens to come up, it's from a position of, ooh, what is it going to do? Ooh, is it going to eliminate
Hmm.
jobs? Ooh, it's the fear side of it. So that part of
Hmm.
what's keeping people from being exposed to it? They're afraid of it.
100%. That's absolutely it. It's fear is keeping everybody behind at this point. And I think the thing too is that we have to remember. So what we were talking about is predictive AI. When we're clicking, clicking, clicking. But what's really important to talk about today is generative AI.
Hmm.
And that's what happened when ChatGPT came to the table. And so now you have Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot. There are, let's call it six, maybe seven, maybe
Right.
eight generative AI tools out there. So when we're talking about adopting tools, well, of course, we don't choose to use our device or not. We're already interacting with predictive AI every day, all day. Doctor's office, grocery store, no matter where we go, we're
Heck, when I'm
interacting with
typing in a
AI.
Word document, it's predicting what I want to type next.
Exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Now we are in the age, as of 2 years ago, of generative AI. And the most fascinating thing about generative AI is these are tools, if you will, just like a toolbox that we can go and pull from. We can go grab a hammer, we can go grab an AI tool. So, for example, and by the way, generative AI tools, most and many of them are free. And
Yeah. So now it's accessible to us. It's been
it's
democratized. Yep.
accessible.
Yep.
Exactly. So if you have a device, you have access to generative AI, depending on what type of internet service there is nearby,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But the point is that small business owners, now is a time to understand that you can manage inventory from your phone. You can personalize a marketing plan. You can reach customers differently. You can build a business plan. You can rebuild your business. All of this within minutes. And so that's, just actually last month, I held the first AI and You Summit for small businesses in Los Angeles, specifically for those that were impacted by the fires. And this was one of those had never been done before in the industry, and we gave it a try. And I invited my partners, Google, Salesforce, and Amazon, to present a how-to event. This was not have a conversation about AI. This was click here, click here. We had about 200 people at the Intuit Dome covering the LA Clippers basketball court was covered with people. And importantly, half of those people were women and people of color, which goes to which proved to me, one, that social media ads work. This was a free community event. People came out to the Intuit Dome, and but what it showed to me is that people want to learn. Small businesses want to understand, but what we have to do in the AI ecosystem is bring this AI literacy to the community, because it's not a build it and they shall come situation. I've learned that over the past 6 years. And the reason is, to your point, the fear.
And there's also, as you well know, Susan, the overwhelm, right? I already see it being exploited, and I get it. It's normal. It's the whole, oh, you think you're doing AI right? Oh, you're doing it wrong. So I'm already seeing those ads that pop up that say, if you're just using it for this, you're doing it wrong. So it's like, oh my gosh, give me a break. I'm just trying to use it. And now you're telling me I'm doing it wrong, right? So that further complicates it. I kind of have been relating this. I know it's very different, but I relate it to how so many business owners got left behind with what now seems something as simple as having a website, right? I don't know what the stats are now, but it's still a ridiculously high number of business owners that don't have a website because they got paralyzed, right? Or they were asked to spend $100,000 on it. But I think similarly, we're afraid because we don't know where to start, and we're getting all these mixed messages as to what we're supposed to be doing with it.
Well, that's a really good point, because what I've been seeing a lot of is something very similar. Is the bottom line is a lot of people now are trying to capitalize on the fear of AI. So I can assure you, the only thing that you all need to do is to be curious, is to explore, is to get on. Well, first of all, of course, I need to, offer free, just go to aiandu.org. We have 3-minute explainer videos. We have videos on AI in small businesses, AI or generative AI, AI in seniors, AI in educators, whatever the topic may be, but especially for small business owners, in bite-sized pieces of information to then hopefully give you the courage to explore more. But all we need to do right now is, when it comes to generative AI, now is the time, if you're a small business owner, to dive in. So what I would recommend is do a search, or just go to google.gemini.com or chatgpt.com or just do a search.
Yeah.
This is my business. What generative AI tool do you recommend? Personally, I do like Google Gemini. I do Google Gemini and ChatGPT. Gemini is very conversational. And so people use it to practice for an interview, for example. And so, yes. And then ChatGPT is very good for writing. It's known for that. So here's the most important thing, Henry, is I want to ask small business owners that are listening, sit down and ask yourself, what is it that I like doing the least on the back end of this business? So if it's painful to create those monthly spreadsheets and put them all together, go to generative AI, go to one of the tools I mentioned and say, you cut and paste what you have. And you could say, act as an accountant and summarize these 12 spreadsheets into one. Boom. You're going to have a spreadsheet.
Amazing. Yeah.
Summarizing it all.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. Yeah.
And here's what's most important. on generative AI, and generative AI, you get on any of the tools, and they're all going to look essentially the same. If they're going to open, it's going to see like it's going to say basically, "What do you want?" or ask a question, which is called a
Right.
prompt. If you remember anything from today, is remember that the more specific the prompt, the more specific the answer. And so here are 5 ways to ensure you can maximize generative AI, and especially for small businesses. So you go to any of those tools and you start with help me with. Be very specific. So let's say I'm a small business and I've decided, I own an Italian restaurant and I want to expand in another city. So I would say, help me with creating a new business plan for an Italian restaurant in this zip code with this many tables, seating this many people, with an average price of this in an economic average income of this. You see what I mean?
Yep.
That's very different from saying, help me with creating a business plan for my new restaurant,
Yep.
which people will be tempted to do
Yeah.
because we're afraid to ask. So, number
And also
one,
because what we have been doing for the last 20 years is doing a search on Google,
right?
right? I would have searched, show me a business plan for a restaurant. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or where do I get help for a business plan for a restaurant? And so we bring that level of prompting to ChatGPT or Gemini.
Right. And keep in mind when we search on Google in the past, when we would search on Google, we get a long list of articles, which we then have to go
And
look
read.
at. And we still do, and I'll explain why.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
let me tell you these other
But
really
yeah,
four
so number
important
one was
points.
help me with.
The next one is you're a. So you're a business coach. I hate to tell you, but that's
Oh yeah, no, my days are
right. I
numbered.
mean, exactly.
Already with voice sensitization, pretty soon somebody could create a podcast and sound like me, right?
Oh, no question. Well, let's
That's
say
going to
so.
happen.
Yeah,
But anyway,
you could say,
you're a.
or you're an accountant.
Yeah, but this is very
You're
important because it's directing it for the tone that you want it to respond in is very
yeah,
important. Yeah.
you're a potential funder of my business,
Yeah.
whatever
But
that
it's
is.
more than tone. It's more than that, right? It's how it then will decide to frame its answer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the next one, number 3, is the output should be. So you've covered the other areas, and then are you seeking a business plan? Are you seeking a marketing strategy? Are you seeking a human resource? I don't know, org chart? Are you seeking a summary of Excel sheets or a summary of 500-page document? This is where you say the output should be X. The next one, number 4, is you should know. So it's you should know that Italian restaurants are extraordinarily successful in these 5 zip codes.
Yeah.
In my
Or
case.
that the competition is extremely high.
Exactly.
And there's a competing Italian restaurant a block away.
Exactly. And then the last one, you say or use, here are some, and then you include references. So whatever else, to your point, the statistics show that 80% of the restaurants in the area are Italian or not. So with those 5 key points, this will really hone in your experience with generative AI. And so all you need to do really is get on one of the generative AI tools and just start playing around.
Start playing with it.
You could literally, just for fun, open your refrigerator. You type in generative AI. Here are the 5 things I have in my refrigerator. Give me some recipes for dinner.
Love that.
Everything you can imagine. But the most important thing someone told, you really need to know this and remember this, is that generative AI can get it wrong. And that's called a hallucination, which is there's a general rule when using generative AI tools, Gen AI. The general rule is do not cut and paste if it matters.
Right. That's
so you do not want to cut and paste a business plan that you saw, including statistics, and you cut and paste it and you submit it to a potential, venture capitalist. We don't want to do that.
No, you don't want to.
So what you need to do is you need to go do a search and double check and find other articles, or go to another generative. This is what I do. I go to another Gen AI tool. I ask the same question. And when I do it to 3 tools and I get the same answer, then I'm pretty confident.
You have confidence, yeah.
It was correct.
And even then, the way I explained it with something like that, where it's something, a piece of content, it's my, what I get from those tools is a good, solid final draft, but then I'm still going to finish it. Right?
They're ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Ideas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's interesting. This point is such a critical one because I've been hearing that often as well. It hallucinates, it gets it wrong. And I think that we all look for reasons why we're not doing it. Oh, because it doesn't always get it right. Okay, there's a lot of things that applies to. I don't get everything right,
Absolutely.
but that doesn't keep me from going forward. But I'm hearing that as an excuse for people not using it.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Really interesting. And I think you're right. It's an excuse.
it's an excuse.
At
Yeah,
the end of the day, I mean, look, history shows how many times newspapers and good old magazines have gotten it wrong. It happens. It just happens. That's human error. In this case, the AI has just not learned correctly.
yeah.
And the thing about new technologies, and particularly AI, is we have to participate in order for it to learn. So personally, I'm conflicted with that, believe it or not, as deeply as evolved as I am, because on one hand, I have every privacy thing you could think of. I was like, I don't want all my information out. Well, you know what? At the same time, I'm also a breast cancer survivor.
Mm,
And AI is getting really good
wow.
in medicine. But if the data it is using only reflects white women with breast cancer, then how is that going to be helpful to my family?
Mm. And
So
so
I
those are
get
those
conflicted.
biases that are
Right.
an issue
Those,
as well.
yeah, it's a bias, but it's also when it comes to Gen AI, we have to play with it. And keep in mind though, too, on the flip side is it doesn't go away. So people are it seems to be picking up that people are using Gen AI for therapy or
Ah,
couples counseling.
interesting.
And so what's happening, and a friend of mine just did this last week. He said, I couldn't get a hold of my therapist. And so I got on a Gen AI tool
I've
and
been hearing this. Yeah.
he said, I got some great advice. And then I go, interesting. I said, okay, do me a favor, track it and see how long it takes for you to get a mental health ad. He said, I already got one. I was like, I
Interesting.
saw that. I knew that was
A
coming.
mental health ad where?
Like on social
On
media, on
on
his
social
other
media
platforms.
because it tracked
So
it.
it's all, who are we kidding? It's not private anymore.
Yeah.
So you want to interact with as a therapist, just know that everything you put in, it doesn't evaporate.
This is Henry Lopez, briefly pausing this episode to invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation with me. I welcome the opportunity to chat with you about your business plans and offer the guidance and accountability that we all need to achieve success. As an experienced small business owner myself, I understand the challenges you're experiencing, and often it's about helping you ask the right questions to help you make progress towards achieving your goals. Whether it's getting started with your first business or growing and maybe exiting your existing small business, I can help you get there. To find out more about my business coaching services and to schedule your free coaching consultation, please visit thehowofbusiness.com. Take that next step today towards finally realizing your business ownership dreams. I look forward to speaking with you soon. But let me ask you this, because on this point, it's a curious point. I'm on the ChatGPT Plus, the $20 a month version, and I've got projects. And I asked it, is the information that I share in this project confidential or does it get shared? And it told me that it was confidential. Was it lying to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Confidential, maybe to whom? To
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. Interesting.
Because it could be confidential to them.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is value, though, of course, in that as I give it more of my information, it gets better at helping me with a particular
Right.
problem or project or whatever the case might be. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the flip side of the benefit of that. Right. But thanks for laying out these 5 ways of creating a prompt. I think that's important. I think that, has been talked about a lot. We know I get bombarded with TikToks because I respond, I'm looking for that kind of content on, prompt guides and these, but this breaks it down very easily. I think that I'm sure the other thing you recommend is it's an iterative process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get it and say, okay, well, give me a little bit more here. Like, I'm using it now to prepare for an interview like this. So I will have given it, like you said, here's Susan's website. Here are kind of the topics, and it knows me now. Help me create an outline. I usually start with, give me 5 good questions that I might ask. And I don't take all 5 of them. Some of them are like, that was not good. But it gets me started. And so if nothing else from a content creation, what it has done, and I don't usually have an issue with writer's block, but boy, talk about getting jump started it makes it so much easier to get started on an
Absolutely.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for small business owners especially, people struggle with managing inventory, for example. So why not go to Gen AI and get some ideas and just get really specific. Here's the issue. What's the best way to resolve this, at a low cost? I mean, think of every detail that you can, because again, the more specific the prompt, the more specific the answer.
Yes. Yes.
And to your point, I think it's just all about ideas, especially if you're a
Mhm.
business owner.
Absolutely. What are some, well, actually, I want to go back first to the session you did in LA.
Hmm.
What were some of the takeaways? What were some of the
Oh,
general things that people were doing, common things that they were exploring?
hmm. I was actually surprised at the range of understanding. Some didn't even know what generative AI was, and others
Mm-hmm.
were creating their own AI tools using generative AI. So there was a wide range of understanding. However, the most interesting thing was, as I mentioned, this had never been done in the industry. As I brought in these different Gemini or Google to talk about Gemini, and
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce to talk about AI agents, which is another topic. You could do a whole
Right.
podcast on
Right.
AI agents. I would just say, in essence, you all are going to hear about AI agents, or if you don't yet, you will very, very soon. And just very briefly, an AI agent is the next iteration of AI. And the way I describe an AI agent is it's a chatbot on steroids.
Yeah.
So a chatbot, when you're on a website, it looks like a person, but it's really not. And it's a two-way conversation. And at some point, it can't go any further because it is just simple AI programming. An AI agent can reason, can find its own answer for us. For example, if I'm a restaurant owner, I could buy this AI tool, called this AI agent, that will allow reservations to be super specific. So, for example, someone calls my restaurant and says, I want to sit outside, tomorrow at 6 p.m. And typically it'd be fine. We'll have you seated. But an AI agent will be able to come back and say, we're sorry, there's rain in the forecast.
Ah,
You will not enjoy sitting outside. We're going to need to sit you inside. You see what I mean?
yep.
So it just
Yeah. There was a
takes,
level of reasoning there.
there's a
Yeah.
huge level of reasoning.
Yeah.
And so AI agents, I promise you, you're going to start hearing
Yep.
about it
Yep.
and start seeing it.
Yeah. I'm starting to build my own, and I think that's where it's going to go. And I'm fortunate. I am helped by the fact that I have a technical background. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's
Mm-hmm.
the other intimidation factor. But one thing I want to explore then is, you mentioned Salesforce. I think that the other way that, obviously, and you mentioned it at the outset, all of the tools that we're already using, our CRM, our financial systems, all of these tools are starting to, if they don't already, they're going to continue to embed AI technology. So I think it's incumbent on us as business owners to explore and apply those new features that are emerging in the tools that we already use.
Absolutely. This, the best way to describe AI is, first of all, it's unprecedented in this entire world. Everybody is where we are.
Yeah. You
you
don't,
know,
I don't think it is, but do you agree that it's not underhyped? This is revolutionary.
Absolutely revolutionary. No one can think of anything that was like this before, and it's even more so than the Industrial Revolution. This is bigger than that because of
Because of the
our
speed.
devices.
Yeah, and exactly. We have access to
Everybody's
it and the
impacted.
speed at which it's going to evolve. Yeah.
Right,
So using AI within the tools we already have. Yeah.
right. Yes.
I mean, an
So,
expansion of that could be Copilot, because I'm kind of classifying Copilot in that category, because I think that's where it's, at
the
least the way I'm
Microsoft
using it.
Copilot
Yeah,
Gen AI
how it's
tool.
helping me get more out of Excel, how it's helping me get more out of my Windows products. Yeah, but anyway,
Right.
that my point is, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is such a, having been in the software industry as you have, we know that even before AI, people end up using a very small percentage of the full functionality of the tool. I mean, Excel, of course, is an example of that, because Excel can be so complicated. I mean, it has its own
Hmm.
programming language, but we have to, as business owners, learn and figure out how to apply, especially these new AI features. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because on one hand, to your point earlier, there's a lot of fear that AI is going to take jobs. And yeah, it will. It is. But it is also creating new jobs. But what's most important to remember is that if you know anybody looking for a job, anybody, or if you are looking for a job, the recent research shows that currently 67% of recruiters are more inclined to even interview the person who has some knowledge of AI. Doesn't mean you have to be a data scientist. So that's what we're saying is encouraging people to embrace AI literacy and become proficient. And it's actually not that difficult because again, there's free tools that we can
Right.
access at home.
Yeah.
So I would say number one, and also number two is that look at your business. And again, what is it you don't want to do or you don't enjoy doing? And frankly, what is it that you're paying for as a repetitive skill that can be replaced? There's the double-edged sword, right? So people with repetitive skills jobs, yes, they will be impacted by AI. Paralegals, admin assistants, anything that's a repetitive skill. Duolingo has been in the news a lot lately.
Yeah.
They initially laid off a lot of translators to replace them
Mhm.
with AI, and then they touted that they are going to be AI first as a company. And then as of last week, now they're backpedaling on that because they realized, wait a minute,
Interesting.
that's a little more than we were prepared for. We're committed to people. So bottom line is that people need to understand it as business owners to be more efficient in your business and to also just get ideas on how to reach your customers.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for sharing all of that. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with AI and you and how you're helping in specific, not just business owners, but particularly business owners. You mentioned the guides, the video guides that are there, but tell us more about what I can find there.
Yes, well, the populations that we focus on at AIU are adults, if you will. So these are community college students,
Mhm.
with the workforce, small business owners, seniors, educators. Because when I launched this nonprofit, I realized I had been in this world long enough to see, K through 12 is always a need, but that's the first place people go, K through 12.
Right, right.
And in this case, the tech industry was focusing a lot on graduate students, encouraging them to become PhD students in AI. So
Mhm.
the big missing chunk was the rest of us
Yeah,
and our family members and our friends. And so that's the specific scope of AI and you. And again, I just learned this because after being in tech and being out of tech, I just realized, oh, there's this huge gap between this bubble. Because when you're working in the tech industry, you think everybody understands this.
yeah.
And then I'd go home and my family were like, AI, what? That's what really prompted me to do this work.
But yeah, it's getting people to educate themselves and not get left behind here. It's almost like there is a segment of the population that's treating this as like, well, I don't, that's just not for me. That's for younger people. That's going to pass me by, and that's okay. But as long as we're still actively involved in something, certainly as a business owner, we cannot take that position.
Absolutely not. This is not social media. This is not an opt-in situation. We are surrounded. Go to the airport. We're all it is facial recognition anymore. You look and you blink and they take the picture and in TSA everywhere. So there you go to the doctor's office. They're not taking hand notes anymore. They're just
No.
speaking and they're capturing all the notes there. But that's a great thing because now medicine is advancing beyond what we could imagine because
Mhm.
instead of all the doctors just referring to their handwritten notes, they now can sit down and access hundreds and thousands of records
That's right.
in 10 seconds
Yeah.
and then make a diagnosis.
Yeah, or it's getting to a point where they're going to prescribe a drug, and the system says, "Wait a second, based on what happened 2 years ago, that could create an issue," or based
Right.
on the allergic situation you're not aware of. So all of a sudden, it can highlight things that a doctor might well forget, or your new doctor doesn't know.
Well, I was just telling my one of my nieces who's out of college, and I was just imploring with her, and I said, please play around with AI so you can put proficient in generative AI on your
Okay.
resume. That's all you need to put. So guess what? So the AI that is scanning the resumes will pick it up.
Brilliant.
And even when you're talking about a travel consultant or, interviewing, guess what's a great travel consultant? Generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yep.
friends are in Japan right now and they created their entire itinerary,
Wild.
and they would put in, find me Michelin star restaurants in Tokyo for under $50. Boom.
Yep.
And then the interviewing, there was, I don't know if you remember way back with the Super Bowl, but one of the commercials was actually from Google Gemini, and a
Mm-hmm.
gentleman was practicing for an interview like it was a person
Yes. Yes.
as he's holding a baby. It's
And
everywhere.
yeah, it's everywhere, and it will be.
Yeah.
What do you, when you look towards the future, let's say 5 to 10 years out, what does kind of look like when you think of a small business and how they're doing it well as far as adopting AI?
I think this businesses that start to embrace it now will be on the train. The others, the two zip codes down, they're going to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. That is just the bottom line. And if you're looking for more efficiencies, more creativity, you don't want to hire a marketing person, you don't want to hire a graphics person, you don't want to create, a website yourself. You can do it all. Go to generative AI and it'll get you there. And it's free. And if you want to use it more advanced services, then you start paying more for that. But
Right.
that really is at the core of what we're doing here. And most importantly, for those that are listening or watching this, is to please share. Please
Mm.
share this segment. So we have to be telling each other that it's okay,
Yeah.
because again, the train is moving. You can still catch it, like your analogy or at the beginning, but it's not, you're going to miss it,
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna
especially as a
miss it.
small business.
And what's going to happen to us is then our competition will use it,
Absolutely.
and they will use it in their
Mm-hmm.
favor and against us, not
Mm-hmm.
specifically, but they're going to have the advantage. Yeah. They're going to have the advantage. They're going to be able to respond to the customer better, faster, more efficiently. They're going to be able to develop new ideas, new products, new services faster. They're going to be able to respond to market demands and shifts in market faster. All of that. And that these were things that were available to large corporations with lots of resources that are now available to me as a solopreneur.
Right.
But the key takeaway, I think, but tell me if I'm wrong, is we've got to educate ourselves. We've got to get immersed. We've got to jump in if we
Got to
haven't.
embrace AI literacy. That's what
Yes.
it is. And it begins with understanding the basics. So
Yeah.
again, if you go to aiandyou.org, you'll see on my homepage, I have an AI literacy pyramid to help people understand how we can evolve in AI. And it starts with understanding the basics. It's like math 101. We're just at math 101. People want to talk about algebra. We're not there yet.
Right. And like I'm terrible at math, I cannot say, yeah, but I suck at math. So I'm just not, I'll let somebody else do
Hmm.
that. Right. I can't take that approach. I can't put this under the category of, oh, it's a technology. I'm not good at technology.
Hmm.
My IT guy takes care of that, or my spouse takes care of that. Cannot take that approach here.
Not at all. I mean, again, go to the grocery store, self-checkout stand. It's everywhere. We
Mhm.
are we are surrounded and interacting with artificial intelligence every day, all day. So now is the time to understand it.
Okay.
Because like anything else, and particularly a new technology, there's the good and the bad and the ugly.
Hmm.
Because in order for it to get better, it needs to get it wrong along the way.
Well said. All right, excellent. Tell us again one more time, and I'll have it in the show notes page, but where you want us to go to learn more.
Yes, visit www.aiandyou.org and follow us
.org.
on AI and You, the number two, on Instagram and the other platforms. And also follow me on LinkedIn. It's Susan Gonzales. I post all kinds of tidbits that I find that I think people may find helpful in our quest to really embrace AI literacy.
Wonderful. And it's Gonzalez with an S at
An
the end, not
S,
a Z.
yes.
Susan Gonzales. Excellent. Susan, thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge and insights. I'd love to hopefully maybe have you back on and we'll do a deep dive on AI agents. But thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is Henry Lopez, and thanks for joining us on this episode of The How of Business. My guest today again, Susan Gonzales. I release new episodes every Monday morning, and you can find the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, including the How of Business YouTube channel and at my website, thehowofbusiness.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to The How of Business. For more information about our coaching programs, online courses, show notes pages, links, and other resources, please visit thehowofbusiness.com.